NBA free agency has been going on for nearly a month, and the Philadelphia 76ers' main goal, main priority this round of free agency was to re sign Quentin Grimes, who's a restricted free agent. Still, no one has signed him to an offer sheet yet, so he still is able to come back to the Philadelphia 76ers. But as time continues to tick, it remains to be seen. Will Quentin Grimes be a member of the Philadelphia 76ers next season? Each day that goes by, it seems like the speculation continues to rise, and whether or not he will be. Everything you read, everything you hear, it sounds like he's still going to be back. But with him still not signing the dotted line, speculation has been rising if he will be back or not. And with that comes potential trade rumors as well in this scenario, with a new sign and trade that has been reported out there that involves another restricted free agent, a pretty high profile guy, maybe the most high profile player on the market still at this moment, and that's Jonathan Kuminga. A recent article from HeavySports.com links a potential sign and trade here for Quentin Grimes to go to the Golden State Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga in return to come to the Philadelphia 76ers. And a sign and trade would need to happen just due to some money stuff, some logistics, but potential scenario there where those two swap. And call me crazy, but I think I would actually be a fan of that. When you look at the Sixers, I think the most depth that they have on the roster at this point is at the guard spot. And I think Quentin Grimes last year played the best basketball that you'll ever see of his NBA career. I don't think he'll have the green light like he did down the stretch last year for that tanking Sixers team. I think his value is as high as it'll ever be, and I think whatever the Sixers sign him to contract-wise, I'm not going to say he's not going to live up to it, but I don't think he's going to be a player that you look back on one day and be like, damn, he's the one that got away. He sure is a good role player. He sure provides good depth and good scoring, good shooting ability, good defensive ability. But at the same time, there might be some more pressing needs on this roster that Jonathan Kuminga could potentially help with. So let's flash over to the article. Some of the key points here. The Golden State Warriors, as we said, this article is about just Kuminga basically for Quentin Grimes straight up. The Golden State Warriors and Philadelphia 76ers have been unable to reach contract extensions with their respective restricted free agents Jonathan Kuminga and Quentin Grimes. Could the best solution for both teams be to swap the two players? Fadeaway World propose a direct sign and trade swap that would see the Warriors bolster their shooting with Grimes and the 76ers shore up their athleticism with Kuminga. And I don't really think it's happiness thing or like not wanting to return to Philadelphia, but mainly about dollars and cents. With the situation, and when a player is upset, I think about the money that he's potentially being offered there, he could look to just go elsewhere where he might even take less money to just have a different opportunity because he might be feeling disrespected, and Quentin Grimes might be in that kind of mold, in that kind of realm in this situation here. And when you look at the Sixers, as I said, I think the deepest spot on this team, on this roster right now, is in the guard spot. And then you go out and you bring in VJ Edgecombe as well, who's going to eat into some of Quentin Grimes' minutes. And I think you're going to want VJ Edgecombe to kind of be that guy, especially on this rookie contract, and get the most out of that. So you look at Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. Those are the guys that are going to take the bulk of the shots in the backcourt. Obviously, you're going to hope VJ Edgecombe develops, comes along, and eventually becomes one of your top scoring options. But then when Embiid and Paul George are on the floor as well, those guys are going to be taking a bulk of the shots for this team. Quentin Grimes is probably your fifth option when this roster is fully healthy. When it comes around to game one, if you are able to trot out Embiid and Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, I probably would say Quentin Grimes slides in there as your number 5 option. So it's not like a player that the Sixers must have back. I think it's more of a luxury at this point. But if if he's not happy with coming back, Jonathan Kuminga wants a change of scenery, as it seemed like he had an up and down tenure, an up and down relationship there with Steve Kerr out there in Golden State. I think this swap could potentially make sense. It would be a one that sends kind of shockwaves throughout the league, and something that I don't think many people would have seen coming. But it's a situation that I think I would welcome. Jonathan Kuminga by no means is a finished product either. I think we've seen some really good basketball for him. He just had a bit of an up and down tenure, like I said, and a little bit of an unstable relationship with Steve Kerr, where he wasn't fully trusted, I think, at times. I think there's an opportunity for more minutes here, maybe in like playing a small ball 4 type thing, playing the minutes that Paul George isn't playing at the 3. But I think this trade could certainly make sense for both sides. So let's get into a little bit more of this potential sign and trade deal, and some of the scenarios of why it would make sense, according to this article that I highly agree with. I think this could make a lot of sense. Grimes' ability to shoot both off the dribble and off the catch, make him a more viable fit on a Warriors team that doesn't run too many pick and roll or ISO actions. That's precisely why Warriors head coach Steve Kerr noted after the 2025 playoffs that Kuminga wasn't a good fit on his team, specifically in lineups featuring Jimmy Butler, who has a similar skill set. As we know with Jimmy, he likes to play with the ball in his hands a lot. Grimes fills the exact 3-and-D fill slot that Golden State desperately lacked after Jonathan Kuminga's development plateaued. And I think, plateaued is a interesting word choice there. I still think there's a ceiling to tap into, but as we were talking about, like, when you have a team that is so veteran laden with Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, you're not exactly looking for, a young player to continue developing in that mix. You're looking for guys that can help you win now, and Quentin Grimes might actually fit that kind of description and what the Warriors need more so. More than just stats, Grimes offers the attitude this culture demands. He's the type of glue guy who buys into his system, basketball track record from Houston to New York, then stepped up in Philly down the stretch, averaging nearly 22 points and solid defense in crucial games. And I said that at the beginning too. I think this is, your peak Quentin Grimes value. Good for him for wanting to get his bag, his money. There was rumors at the beginning of free agency that he wanted, north of $20 million a year, $25 million a year. He's not getting that from anyone. And I've seen some, speculation that he's hesitant even to sign a qualifying offer. It might just be time for a change of scenery for him. And that was a no doubt about it smart trade to make for the 76ers. But, if you're going to have to get rid of Quentin Grimes in this situation, it's good to get an asset back in return. And getting a guy who's an athletic forward who I think kind of fills the need for this Philadelphia 76ers roster and Jonathan Kuminga potentially would be a smart move. And I'm also a person where I've came on here multiple times and I've said, like, the depth of this team is going to be the most important thing. We know time and time again guys are hurt. We don't know when Embiid's going to be back. Paul George has this knee surgery. Tyrese Maxey missed time last year. McCain missed time last year. And then I pointed right to the NBA Finals rosters as well with the Indiana Pacers, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Those are two rosters that were extremely deep and were able to rotate a cast of different characters at the guard spot throughout the season. And you're never going to hear me complain about having too many guards. But in this situation, if you're going to be given Quentin Grimes $12 to $15 million a year to be your fifth or sixth option, ideally on your team when your team is fully healthy, you might be better kind of using some of your money and using some of your resources elsewhere. And giving a guy in the front court the opportunity like this in Jonathan Kuminga, which is a much more glaring need for the roster at this moment. So when you look at this in the article as well, the Warriors haven't been able to really find any trade partners potentially for a sign-and trade, which is why the 76ers could make sense. His market seems to be a little bit dry as well. On the flip side, Kuminga could be an invaluable piece for the 76ers in the rebuild next to Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, and Jerry McCain, as I mentioned. I think in an ideal world for the 76ers, those are your three kind of core guards moving forward. And with Joel Embiid and Paul George becoming increasingly unreliable with their health, the Sixers could be served in acquiring Kuminga and fast-tracking their team in the future. And we've talked about this multiple times on here, where the Sixers are in a good position, I think, still to kind of bridge this gap of hopefully being competitive in what looks like a weak, wide open Eastern Conference this year, but also kind of, as this article touches on, fast tracking this team of the future. Edgecombe, Tyrese Maxey, Jerry McCain, a young player that still has a ceiling to tap into, potential to tap into, I think, in Jonathan Kuminga. Kuminga brings electricity, a highlight reel mentality, and that's the type of intangible that ignites fans and scares opponents. Pair Kuminga's leap the floor attitude with Maxey's relentless craft, and you've got a base nucleus with both swagger and skill. And I think that's a perfect way to put it. He's not a perfect basketball player by any stretch, but he has had some really good moments, and he adds an athleticism. He had some size to the Sixers front court that they're kind of lacking right now. Philly's blueprint needs wings who can create, defend, and grow, not just score. As I touched on, you're not going to be asking Quentin Grimes to shoot the ball and score the ball as much as you were down the stretch last year. Kuminga can kind of go in there and offer you something else that Quentin Grimes doesn't have, and also some more size and hopefully rebounding as well. He'd experiment alongside Maxey's ball-dominant offense and could push the Sixers into a dangerous young core on the rise, especially if the franchise can pivot away from Joel Embiid and Paul George. That's still easier said than done in that regard, but this is a trade that I would certainly welcome. I'm not trying to push Quentin Grimes out the door, but it does sound like, if he was intent on returning to Philadelphia 110%, I think that would have been done by now. I'm sure the Sixers have offered him, a reasonable contract. He might just want more, or he might just want a different situation where, as I said, he's not going to be the main option here. He's not going to be the main option in Golden State, but I think he might be a little bit higher up the totem pole and be kind of that 3-and-D guard that they're kind of looking for as they try to make one final push here for a title with Steph. Jimmy Butler in the fold now, Draymond Green obviously, but with Philadelphia in that sense, Jonathan Kuminga could help, build alongside this young core, this young nucleus that the Sixers are looking to build as they, still trying to bridge the gap here and compete, hopefully with Paul George and Joel Embiid, but looking towards kind of the next chapter as well. So if that sign and trade did happen, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Would you welcome in Kuminga, or are you 100% in on Quentin Grimes coming back to the Philadelphia 76ers? As always, appreciate everyone for tuning in. Please drop a like, please drop a subscribe, and we'll talk to you next time here on Sixers Digest.